Welcome to this edition of the $1 Million Mastermind Podcast. This is where we pick the brains of high achievers from all walks of life and get their hard-earned, real-world insights on winning. I'm your host, Larry Weidel. I'm talking with the CEO of Stratice, Jordan Franklin, and they've got over 120 employees, and they're recruiting 40 to 60 hours a week. And
that's just me.
They'll be recruiting for you if you call them, and over $12 million in revenue. And you were the top staffing influencers of 2021 and 2022. What's that all about?
Yeah, so World Staffing Organization, they do a poll and you can submit. And I won in 2015. I was number 3, and then not 2015. Sorry, in 2021, I was number 3 most influential person in staffing. And then in 2022, they put out the top 100 list. So they kind of made it more encompassing and everything, and talk to a lot more people. So actually me and my co-CEO, so there's actually 2 of us, just correction, but so we both made the list. We are chief exploration officer, that would be me, and then chief experience officer. So
well, how do you who votes on this?
Everyone in staffing. So every other every other staffing agency
in the United States, in North
world.
America, in the world.
Yeah, that's the world.
All the stinking world.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, let me get this right. You started in here in 2017, and by 2021, you're the number 3 most influential person, voted in a worldwide vote of people in staffing as a number. Good Lord, you've got to be kidding.
I mean, I got a little plaque.
That's kind of a big deal.
It was really exciting. I didn't think I was even going to make it. We were sitting in our little WeWork office, me and a couple of recruiters at the time, and it flashed up there that I made the top 3, because they just called out the 1, 2, and 3, and I made the top 3. And you would have thought that we were like 100 people in WeWork.
Wow. And so what did that do for your business?
It's been great. So we went to a couple different.
That public, do people hear about that? Or, I mean, I guess you can use it in your calling and marketing, but yeah. Did it open doors?
It does. I think it opened quite a few doors. Right after that, we got nominated for Best Small Business in Arkansas. I was nominated for Best CEO in Arkansas. I didn't win, but the lady that won runs a giant trucking agency, and they have like 14,000 employees. So like, how do you compete? Like, I run 100, you run 14,000 people.
She sounds like a bad woman.
She's amazing. She must not sleep. But
whoever this woman is, we got to find her, because she knows something.
She worked her way up. She lives in Fort Smith, Arkansas. She's amazing. Even my grandfather called me and saw who else was nominated, and he used to work with her, and he called me and he was like, "You have a really tough group of people. I think she's gonna win." I was like, "Thanks." So
you don't have to win everything, Jordan. Come on.
No. She was so sweet too. She knew everyone that was nominated and knew them by name and introduced herself to them. She was the nicest lady. Where
did you get this massive competitive streak?
I think I was born with it, but so when I was younger, so my sister is dyslexic, and so am I. And so we've always said that it's a curse when you're younger because you're annoyed that you can't do that. You're not as efficient at reading and doing things as everyone else. But when you get older, you really realize that it was actually a blessing, because when you're young, you have to learn how to really learn and really be competitive and really like have stick-to-itiveness, because you learn at like second grade that it's going to be freaking hard.
Yeah.
And it's just like an early life lesson that some kids just don't ever have to do. And our husbands say all the time, they're like, it's a blessing. You two are the most driven people I've ever known. But yeah. And so sixth grade.
That's one of the things we found over the years, that the people, it's an insane disadvantage for people to be really smart, really beautiful, really athletic from a young age on up, because they're treated special. And then sooner or later, all that fades away and you're up there competing, with everybody else. And the whatever advantage or boost that gave you is kind of run out. And everybody else who wasn't quite so pretty, smart, or athletic learned early on to work. They were going to have to work like a dog, and they weren't special, And most CEOs realize, have the attitude, I'm not that special. I got to work. And people used to say, why are you work so hard? I said, it's because I'm not very smart. If I was smart, what happens is it'll say to you too, you're just a genius, that darn Jordan, what a genius. And when they would say it to me, I would say, if I was a genius, I wish I told myself, like 20 years ago, because I sure could have saved myself a whole lot of time.
Right. I tell everyone, even my clients, I'm like, listen, I am not the smartest person in this room. That's the reason why I do what I do, so I can bring the smartest person to the room.
Yeah.
Like that's what I do, is like, I'm supposed to bring you the talent. I'm just a facilitator, a connector.
When you show up at a company that or start talking to people, what are good signs for you? Because you realize these are going to be great people to work with. They've got their act together. What are things that send that signal to you?
Yeah. So when they really ask, how are you finding these people? Where are you going to look for them? What are your avenues? How many interviews do they go through before they get to us? Those kind of things. But even though the companies that don't have their act together at all are kind of fun, right? Because then you go in and you can talk to them and say, okay, so here's the other things we need to go through. We need to really talk through all of this because you haven't thought about these things. And that's fun too. It's the ones that are hard, that are always a hard no, is we don't use third party. We don't pay to get people. People come to us. And it's like, okay, so you haven't hit your growth spurt yet, or you're just not thinking outside the box. Because if accounting firms like Deloitte, Accenture, like all of these big accounting firms will use third-party recruiting firms, and they can prove the profitability off of it, then you probably can too. And I can show you how we can get there. But you've got to get past that, right? Because a lot of companies will just say, we don't use third party. So that's the roadblock.
Yeah. And so talk about some of your an ideal situation you get into. Is that with the government work or?
No, I think an ideal situation would be like a startup that just got an infusion, where the investors do really understand the benefit to using a company like us, right?
Yeah.
Because you got to get at that point in time, you've got to make sure that the investors understand where their money is going to. I think that's the ideal one, right? So, hey, so-and-so got a $12 million infusion. They got to hire 25 people. That's the perfect one, perfect scenario. I want to come in there, help you guys really game plan, because those people are the ones that a lot of the times don't have the bandwidth, right? It's not necessarily that they don't know where they're going. They probably have a great game plan. That's how they got the infusion. They just don't have the bandwidth to do all the interviewing and hiring that they need to do to get to the next level. And that's where we really come in and help.
Now, if someone, an employee, would might be smart for them to stay plugged into you, even when they start the new job, because I'm going to get you to speak to this. We've always, I've been in the commission sales, business, financial services,
Mhm.
and we've always had a bad attitude towards the corporate job situation. Like it's only a matter of time before you're going to get screwed by the corporation, because corporations don't all grow. And then when they sometimes they're sold and then they're split. And then the person that you had your lawyer that knows, for 20 years, this was your boss, and he knows all those extra weekends you put in, and your loyalties to him, and his loyalty or her loyalty is to you. And then they leave. And
Yeah.
now a new person comes in who for some reason hates your guts and has no background on the fact that you've, bled and sweat for the company for 20 years,
Yeah.
and is looking for all the credit. And you're like, this is not working for me anymore. And so one time we used to tell people, if you're going to be in a corporation, like if you're talking to your nephew or something like that, you're going to go in, as soon as you go in, at least, have a idea of where you would go next, because you're probably going to go, not going to be there forever. The whole idea of going with a company for all your life, 40 years and a pension, not true today, is it?
No. And so my sister's in marketing, and they hop around all the time. Not all the time, I'd say all the time. They hop around more, right? Every 2-3 years, right? And she always jokes because she's like, I review her offer letters. It's not that we don't recruit marketing positions a whole lot. We have for her, but we don't recruit marketing positions a whole lot. But it's always good to have a recruiter friend, right? Because first of all, we're not going to charge you. We're trying to place you. We charge the client, right? So we can at least bring you opportunities that are up your alley and talk to you about career growth. And, you telling us no 5 times in a row and then finally saying yes on the 6th to a communication about a position. I mean, that's not going to hurt our feelings. We get told no every day. Right. So I tell everyone, our client and consultants alike, we're like your wingman, right? You tell us when you hate the job order, and we're not going to tell the client that you think their job order sucks. And we tell the client, you tell us when you don't like a candidate, and we're going to, let it land a little nicer to the candidate and say, hey, maybe this wasn't the right position. Let's go find another position for you that looks like a better fit. So it's just like the communication in between the two. But yeah, I mean, I think having a recruiter friend is the best kind of friend.
Do you have statistics on how long employees can expect to stay employed in different jobs and things like that?
It really depends on what industry they're in, and then how high up they are. So IT industry, if they're in government, they tend to stay a little longer because they normally stay for the term of the contract. And then if they're in, corporate world, I would say it's probably 2.5 years. The last time I looked, it was right around there. So it just really depends on how high up.
What makes it 2.5 years? And again, we're talking at a higher level, not a staffing position.
Yeah. So more like the mid-level position would be like a 2.5 year, because a lot of the times projects last about that long. So they get done and either they don't get placed onto something they really like, or it's not moving forward as fast as they would like. So they kind of go start searching. And then also a lot of the times that 2.5 year mark, they've increased their skills enough to go get more money somewhere else, where maybe their internal increases aren't as much as what they would get at another company.
Yeah. And the smart people are aware of that. It's going in, don't you think?
Yeah.
And employers, it's kind of like, we used to say about, like, they get 20-year-olds and they put them in charge of a retail store at a mall.
Okay.
And put them through a training program. And here they are just out of high school. And there's a lot of inventory, there's staffing to keep up, a lot of things.
A lot of things.
And they don't make any money, but they get a lot of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And at a young age, it's a way of getting a lot of experience and skills at a young age on your resume, and then you can go make money. So it's important to look at pretty much every position when you're going in is, what am I going to learn? Where am I going to be? Like you say, you go to the company, what's your game plan 30, 60, 90 days?
Yeah.
It's also important to let the employees think about that, where you're going to be and how you can move up, improve.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, even when I was happy, at the last company I was at, I still interviewed around. I didn't think I was going to move, but I still took the interviews, to keep my interview skills up, right? But also B, to see what else was out there and what it looked like and what the scope of the land looked like. Like, what's it going to take me, an hour? If I can schedule it, right, I can at least see what's out there and what they're offering. Now, I think that kind of depends, right? You don't want to go after 6 months or 3 months in a position that looks like you're hopping. But 2.5 years, 2 years, something like that looks decent on a resume and still looks like you're being pretty consistent and finishing what you've started.
Thanks for listening to the $1 Million Mastermind. If you felt there were any valuable takeaways from this episode, please take a minute and leave us a 5-star review. Your feedback is important and really helps us get the word out to a wider audience. Remember, we have a valuable webinar that is absolutely free. Register for it right now at whitealumwinning.com. Thanks for listening.